You know that special moment when your husband of 17 years casually announces over breakfast that he's selling your house to fund his midlife crisis with a 29-year-old receptionist named Ramona? Yeah, me neither, until last Thursday. I'm Linnea Caldwell, 41 years old, sustainability consultant, mother of two, and apparently the world's biggest idiot for not seeing this coming. But here's the plot twist that made my Thursday morning go from worst day ever to hold my organic fair trade coffee. My darling husband Clyde forgot one tiny, insignificant detail about our joint Victorian home in Asheville's historic Montford neighborhood. It's not his. It never was. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me paint you the full picture of this dumpster fire. Because if I'm going down in the Asheville gossip mill, I'm at least going to control the narrative. Thursday morning, September. The air had that crisp mountain feel that makes tourists flood our streets every fall, clogging up downtown with their "I hiked half a mile, I'm basically Bear Grylls" energy. I was in my kitchen, the one I personally designed with subway tiles from that salvage place on Riverside Drive, the farmhouse sink I found on Facebook Marketplace, and the butcher block counters I spent 3 weekends refinishing while Clyde watched football. Our 1898 Victorian was my grandmother's gift to me, and I'd spent 10 years and every spare dollar transforming it from charming fixer-upper to Architectural Digest would totally feature this. Clyde loved telling people about the house we built together, which was hilarious, considering his only contribution was occasionally asking if we really needed to spend that much on crown molding. Anyway, Thursday, coffee brewing, me planning my day, client meeting at 10, pick up Oscar from soccer at 4, help Lila with her college essay that evening. Normal stuff. Then Clyde came downstairs with 2 suitcases and the kind of smile that makes you want to check your bank accounts immediately. "We need to talk," he said, setting the bags by the door. Now, I've been married long enough to know that "we need to talk" is man code for "I've already made a decision, but I'll pretend this is a conversation." Still, I wasn't prepared for what came next. "I've met someone," he announced, like he was telling me he'd discovered a new Thai place. Someone younger, more fun, someone who actually appreciates me. I stirred sugar into my coffee, slowly. 1 rotation, 2, 3. Because if I didn't focus on something mundane, I was going to throw the entire French press at his head. "Ramona from your office?" I asked, my voice unnaturally calm. "The one who dots her I's with little hearts?" His face did that thing. That little flicker of surprise that he couldn't quite hide. "How did you—" "Clyde." I took a sip of coffee. "You've been coming home smelling like vanilla cupcake body spray for 3 months. Either you're having an affair, or Bath & Body Works started a very aggressive marketing campaign. Also, you've been doing your own laundry." That was the real tell. He had the audacity to look offended. "I wanted to tell you sooner, but you were too busy planning your exit strategy?" I leaned against my custom countertops, feeling every dollar I'd spent on this house radiating through my back like armor. "Let me guess. You've already looked at apartments downtown. Probably one of those new luxury buildings near Pack Square. Modern, trendy, the kind with a rooftop bar where you can pretend you're still 35. Ramona and I have been looking, yes." He straightened his shoulders, trying to find whatever confidence he'd rehearsed in the mirror. "Which brings me to the point. I'm selling the house. You have 30 days to pack your things. My realtor is coming by next week to do the assessment." I almost laughed. Almost. Because the sheer magnificent stupidity of what he'd just said was genuinely impressive. "Your realtor," I repeated slowly. "Brad Morrison. Best in Asheville. He says we can get at least $850 for this place. Maybe $900 if we—" Fascinating. I set down my coffee mug with extreme precision. "And did Brad happen to mention whose name is on the deed?" Clyde's face went blank. That special kind of blank that means the hamster wheel in his brain just stopped spinning. "What?" "The deed, Clyde. The actual legal document that determines who owns this house." I smiled. It probably looked terrifying. "Did you ever actually look at it? We bought this house together." "No, sweetie." The sweetie came out dripping with enough venom to kill a horse. "My grandmother left this house to me in 2008, 2 years before we got married. The deed is in my name. Only my name." with a lovely little clause about separate property that Grandma Rose insisted on because, and I quote, "Men are idiots with money." I watched the color drain from his face in real time. It was beautiful. Like watching a time lapse of someone realizing they'd just stepped on a rake. That's not, you never. I never mentioned it because I didn't think I had to spell out property law to a grown man. Also, I handled all the paperwork when we moved in. You know, along with everything else in our marriage that required reading more than a beer label. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He looked like a very confused bass. "So," I continued, refilling my coffee with steady hands, "here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to walk out that door with your 2 pathetic suitcases and your vanilla-scented dreams. You're going to move in with Ramona. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think she'd wait for you to sell your house first? That's adorable. And I'm going to call my lawyer. Not your realtor, my lawyer. Because turns out, 17 years of marriage doesn't give you rights to property that was never yours in the first place." The panic in his eyes was chef's kiss. Absolutely magnificent. "Linnea, you can't..." "Can't what? Keep my own house? Watch this." I pulled out my phone and started typing. "I'm freezing our joint accounts right now, all of them, because I'm pretty sure if I dig through the statements, I'm going to find some interesting expenses. Let me guess. Victoria's Secret charges? Fancy dinners at Curate? Maybe a weekend trip to Charleston you told me was a sales conference?" His silence was the only answer I needed. "Get out of my house, Clyde. Linnea, get out." He grabbed his suitcases, fumbling with the handles, his confidence completely evaporated. At the door, he turned back one more time. "You're making a huge mistake." I took another sip of coffee, letting the moment breathe. The only mistake I made was not changing the locks 17 years ago, but don't worry, I'm correcting that today. The door slammed. I stood in my kitchen, in my house, and felt something unexpected. Not sadness, not even anger, really. Freedom. Sweet, terrifying, absolutely intoxicating freedom. And then my phone rang. Brad Morrison, the realtor. This was going to be fun. "Mrs. Caldwell? This is Brad Morrison with Summit Realty." I put him on speaker and poured myself another cup of coffee. "Mr. Morrison, I've been expecting your call. He cleared his throat. Professional awkwardness. My favorite flavor. "I'm calling about the property listing your husband requested. There seems to be a situation." "A situation?" I sat down at my kitchen table, the one I'd bought from that antique place in Weaverville, refinished myself, and paired with chairs I'd reupholstered during quarantine, while Clyde binge-watched The Sopranos. "Do tell." "I went to the county records office this morning to pull the deed. Standard procedure before listing a property." Another throat clear. "Ma'am, your name is the only one on that deed. Linnea Rose Caldwell. The property was transferred to you via inheritance trust in 2008, with a specific clause designating it as separate property." "Fascinating," I said, examining my nails. And, legally speaking, I can't list a property without the owner's authorization. Your husband doesn't have that authority." "Huh." I took a long sip of coffee. "So what you're telling me is that my husband called you to sell a house he doesn't own, to fund his new life with his mistress, without bothering to check whether he actually had the right to sell it." Silence. Then, "That's not how I would phrase it, but that's exactly how I would phrase it, Brad. Thanks for the call. I'll be changing the locks today. If Clyde contacts you again, feel free to tell him that his soon-to-be ex-wife says hello." I hung up before he could respond. 17 years. 17 years of this man living in my house, eating meals at my table, sleeping in my bed, and not once, did he bother to check whose name was on the deed. The audacity was actually impressive in its own way. My phone buzzed. "Clyde, we need to talk about the house." I typed back. "You mean my house? The one you just tried to sell without permission?" "No, I don't think we do." "Linnea, be reasonable." "I'm being extremely reasonable. I'm not pressing charges for attempted real estate fraud. Yet. This is ridiculous. We're married. What's yours is mine." I actually laughed out loud at that one. North Carolina is not a community property state, genius. Separate property stays separate. Google it. My lawyer will have something to say about this. Your lawyer will have something to say about the $15,000 you withdrew from our joint savings last month. And that's just what I found so far. Still digging through the kids' college fund statements. I saw the bank records. Want to explain what that cash was for? Let me guess. Ramona's dental work? A romantic getaway? Down payment on that downtown apartment? The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then stopped completely. Bingo. I opened my laptop and started digging through our financial records. Online banking is a beautiful thing when you've been the one managing the family finances for 17 years. Joint credit card. There it was. A charges timeline that read like a romance novel written by an idiot. Artisan Jewelry Gallery, Asheville, $1,047. The Vanderbilt Inn, weekend stay, $892. Victoria's Secret, $347. Curate Tapas Bar, $286. Another Victoria's Secret charge, $412. I screenshot everything, every single thing. Then I called Simone Mercer, best divorce attorney in Western North Carolina. We'd met at a charity gala 3 years ago. She'd been handling the divorce of a friend whose husband thought hiding assets in his mother's name was clever. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Simone Mercer's office. Hi, this is Linnea Caldwell. I need to schedule an emergency consultation. Of course, Mrs. Caldwell. What's the nature of... My husband is having an affair with a woman young enough to be his daughter, tried to sell my house without my permission, and has been embezzling from our joint accounts. How's your afternoon looking? A pause. Then, can you be here in an hour? I'll be there in 30 minutes. I grabbed my purse, my laptop, and every financial document I could find. On my way out, I stopped by our bedroom. Excuse me, my bedroom now, and looked around. Clyde's side of the closet was half empty. He'd taken his favorite suits, his good shoes, that ridiculous leather jacket he bought during his last midlife crisis, but he'd left his golf clubs, the ones he spent $3,000 on last spring, the ones he said were essential for client relationships. I smiled. Those were going on Facebook Marketplace by sunset. My phone buzzed again. Not Clyde this time. My mother-in-law, Patricia. Oh, this was going to be fun. Patricia Caldwell was the kind of woman who wore pearls to Target and thought my career was cute, compared to her son's real job. She'd spent 17 years making little comments about my cooking, my decorating, my parenting, my everything. Always with that smile. That I'm just trying to help smile that made me want to scream into a pillow. Linnea, dear. Clyde mentioned you two are having some difficulties. I'm sure we can work this out as a family. I typed back while driving. Patricia, your son is having an affair with a 29-year-old and tried to steal my house. The only thing we're working out is his alimony payments. Don't be dramatic. Marriage is about forgiveness. Marriage is also about not sleeping with your receptionist and attempting real estate fraud. But what do I know? I'm just the woman who's been supporting your son's lifestyle for nearly 2 decades. I raised my son better than this. Clearly not. I put my phone in my purse before I said something I'd regret. Actually, scratch that. I wouldn't regret it. But I needed to stay strategic. Simone's office was in one of those renovated buildings downtown, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. Very Asheville, very expensive, very exactly what I needed. She was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun and the kind of sharp eyes that said she'd seen every divorce trick in the book. Mrs. Caldwell. She shook my hand firmly. Tell me everything. I did. Every detail. The affair, the house, the money, the 17 years of being taken for granted. She took notes on a legal pad, her expression never changing. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. First, I'm sorry. That's genuinely awful. She tapped her pen against the pad. Second, from a legal standpoint, you're in an excellent position. The house is solely yours. The financial records show clear dissipation of marital assets. North Carolina recognizes adultery as grounds for divorce, which affects alimony and property division. You have children, which means child support is non-negotiable. What about the money he took? We'll get it back. With interest. She leaned forward. But here's what I need to know. How far do you want to take this? What do you mean? Some people want a quick, quiet divorce. Others want justice. I handle both. But if you want to actually make him face consequences for 17 years of taking you for granted, that's a different strategy. I thought about Clyde's face that morning, his confidence, his absolute certainty that he could just walk away with everything. I thought about Ramona's vanilla cupcake body spray. I thought about Patricia's pearls and passive-aggressive text messages. I thought about every dinner I made that he barely tasted, every soccer game he missed, every time he introduced me as just a sustainability consultant, as if my career was a hobby I'd grow out of. I want justice, I said. The full package. Simone smiled. It was terrifying and beautiful. Then let's burn this down. Simone gave me homework. Mountains of it. I need bank statements going back 2 years. Credit card records, his work schedule, travel receipts, photos, texts, emails, anything that proves pattern and timeline. She handed me her card. Also, and this is important, don't confront him. Don't engage. Gray rock method. You're a boring stone. He gets nothing from you emotionally. I can do boring stone, I said. I've been married to him for 17 years. I'm basically a geological formation at this point. I spent Thursday afternoon in what I can only describe as a forensic accounting fury. Every statement, every receipt, every suspicious charge. I created a spreadsheet color-coded by category. Red for romantic expenses, yellow for cash withdrawals, orange for unexplained travel. By dinner time, my dining room looked like a crime scene investigation, which, technically, it was. That's when my phone rang. Daphne Fletcher, my college roommate turned forensic accountant. She'd moved to Charlotte 5 years ago, but we still did wine nights whenever she visited Asheville. Lynn, I heard something today and I need to tell you immediately. I put her on speaker while organizing receipts. If it's about Clyde, I already know. Affair, tried to sell my house, the whole dumpster fire. It's not about Clyde. It's about Ramona. That made me pause. What about her? Remember how I told you I work with that financial fraud investigation firm? We were consulting on a case last year, embezzlement at a tech company in Charlotte. The guy's defense was that his girlfriend manipulated him into taking the money. Guess who the girlfriend was? My stomach dropped. Ramona Pierce? Bingo. She worked as an admin assistant there. Started dating the CFO, married guy, 3 kids. Classic story. She made him feel young, special, understood. He started diverting company funds, buying her gifts, planning to leave his wife. Then the company caught on. He got fired, lost everything in the divorce, and she ghosted him completely. Blocked him on everything. Moved to another city. I sat down slowly. Asheville. Asheville, Daphne confirmed. Lynn, there's more. I made some calls. Before Charlotte, she was in Raleigh. Same pattern. Marketing manager at a pharmaceutical company, married, 2 kids. She convinced him to liquidate his retirement accounts for a business opportunity that never materialized. Wife found out. Divorce, custody battle. He lost custody because the financial instability made him look unfit. Last I heard, he was living in his brother's basement. The room felt very cold suddenly. How long between them? 4 months after the Charlotte guy, she was already with the Raleigh guy before him. Lynn, this woman is a professional. She targets middle-aged men in middle management, makes them feel special, gets them to burn their lives down, and then disappears when there's nothing left to take. I thought about Clyde's face that morning, his confidence, his certainty that Ramona was different from me, that she appreciated him. He has no idea, I said quietly. None of them do. That's how she operates. After we hung up, I sat in my dining room surrounded by evidence of my husband's betrayal and felt something unexpected. Almost sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered him saying, "You have 30 days to pack your things," and the sympathy evaporated like morning mist. I called Simone immediately. "Found something interesting," I said, and told her everything. There was a long pause. Then, "This changes our strategy completely. We're not just dealing with a simple affair anymore. We're dealing with a pattern predator, and your husband is just her latest mark. What do we do with this information?" We use it strategically, at the right moment, when it'll have maximum impact. I could hear her typing. How do you feel about being the person who saves Clyde from himself? I'd rather push him off a cliff, honestly. She laughed. I like you, Linnea. Here's what we're going to do. Friday morning, I had coffee with Patricia and Harold Caldwell at their country club, the Grove Park Inn, naturally, because where else would Patricia take a crisis meeting? They sat across from me, Patricia in her signature pearls, Harold looking uncomfortable in his golf polo. They'd raised Clyde in this world, the one where men worked and women managed households, where appearances mattered more than happiness, where you stayed married no matter what, because that's what decent people did. Thank you for meeting with us, Linnea, Patricia began, her voice dripping with that particular Southern politeness that's actually condescension wearing a nice dress. We'd like to discuss how we can help you and Clyde work through this misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. I stirred cream into my coffee. Is that what we're calling adultery and attempted theft now? I must have missed that memo. Harold cleared his throat. Now, Linnea, let me save us all some time. I pulled out my tablet and opened the file I'd prepared. This is Ramona Pierce, 29 years old. She's had 3 serious relationships in the past 4 years, all with married men, all in middle management, all ended the same way. Man leaves wife, loses everything, Ramona disappears. I turned the screen toward them. This is Marcus Webb from Charlotte, lost his job and custody of his kids. This is Kevin Hartley from Raleigh. Living in his brother's basement, hasn't seen his daughters in 2 years. Want to guess who Ramona's current project is? Patricia's face went white. Harold reached for the tablet with shaking hands. Clyde is not special, I continued. He's not different. He's just next in line. And when she's done draining whatever she can from him, which won't be much, since everything of value is in my name, she'll move on to the next middle-aged man having a crisis. This can't be... Patricia's voice actually cracked. It is. I have documentation, court records, testimonies from the previous victim's attorneys. I took a sip of coffee. Your son is dating a predator, and he's too busy feeling validated to notice. Harold looked at his wife, then at me. What do you need from us? Finally, a sensible question. I need you to stop enabling him. Stop the boys will be boys nonsense. Stop suggesting I forgive this. I leaned forward. And I need you to testify, if it comes to that, about the college fund. Patricia frowned. What college fund? The one Clyde's been managing for Lila and Oscar. The one that should have about $47,000 in it by now. I pulled up another document. It has $18,000. Where do you think the missing $29,000 went? The silence that followed was deafening. He wouldn't, Patricia whispered. He did. Fancy dinners, weekend getaways, jewelry, all documented. I closed my tablet. So here's what's going to happen. I'm filing for divorce. I'm seeking full custody with supervised visitation. I'm going after every penny he owes those kids. And you're going to let it happen, because deep down, you know he deserves it. Harold nodded slowly. Patricia looked like she was going to be sick. I loved your son, I said quietly. For 17 years, I built a life with him. I made a home. I raised our children. I supported his career. And he repaid me by trying to steal my house and abandoning his family for a woman who's using him like a credit card. I stood up. So no, Patricia. We're not working through this. We're ending it. Cleanly, legally, and justly. I left them sitting there, Patricia dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Harold looking older than I'd ever seen him. My phone buzzed. Simone. Clyde's attorney just called. He wants to negotiate. They're scared. Good. They should be. Mediation scheduled for Monday. Bring everything. We're going to bury him. That evening, I sat my kids down. Lila on my left, Oscar on my right, both of them looking at me with those eyes that still believed I could fix anything. Your dad and I are getting divorced, I said. No point sugarcoating it. Lila nodded slowly. We heard him on the phone, with her. Oscar looked at his lap. Is it because of us? Oh, baby, no. I pulled him close. This is because your father made choices. Bad ones? Adult ones. Nothing you did or didn't do. Are we going to have to move? Lila asked. Never. I squeezed her hand. This house is ours. It always has been. Your rooms stay exactly as they are. What about Dad? Oscar's voice was small. Dad made his choice. Now he gets to live with the consequences. They were quiet for a moment. Then Lila said, Good. And that's when I knew. We were going to be fine. Better than fine, actually. We were going to thrive. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn clarity that makes you believe in fresh starts. I dressed carefully. Navy blazer, white blouse, pearl earrings my grandmother left me. Professional. Unshakable. The kind of armor that says, I've already won and we're just here for paperwork. Simone met me outside the mediation center downtown. Ready? I was born ready. I've just been on pause for 17 years. The conference room was aggressively beige. Neutral walls, neutral carpet, neutral everything. Designed, I suppose, to keep emotions calm during emotionally devastating conversations. Clyde sat on the opposite side with his attorney, Marcus Webb. Yes, that Marcus Webb. Apparently, after his life imploded courtesy of Ramona, he'd gone to law school. The irony was almost too perfect. Clyde looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt. The confident man from Thursday morning had been replaced by someone who'd clearly been sleeping on an air mattress. Mrs. Caldwell, Marcus began, shuffling papers with the nervous energy of someone who knew exactly how this was going to end. My client is prepared to offer a fair settlement? Let me stop you right there. Simone opened her briefcase with the precision of a surgeon selecting scalpels. Your client tried to sell property he doesn't own, embezzled $29,000 from his children's college fund, and committed adultery, which North Carolina law recognizes as affecting alimony determinations. The word fair doesn't apply here. Clyde leaned forward. Linnea, can we please just talk? Without the lawyers? No, I said simply. You lost that privilege when you moved your mistress's toothbrush into my bathroom. His face flushed red. She's not. Ramona and I are building something real. Oh, are you? I pulled out my tablet. Simone had advised against this moment. Too theatrical, she'd said. But some moments require theater. Marcus, you might find this interesting. Your client is dating Ramona Pierce, the same Ramona Pierce who destroyed your life 3 years ago. The color drained from Marcus's face. What? Small world, isn't it? I turned the screen toward them. Ramona has a type. Middle-aged men in middle management. Married, assets. She makes them feel special, convinces them to burn their lives down, extracts whatever value she can, then disappears. I looked at Clyde. You're not special, honey. You're just predictable. Clyde's hands gripped the table. You're lying. Am I? Marcus, want to tell your client what happened to you? Marcus looked at Clyde with something between pity and vindication. She made me steal from my company. Told me we'd start a business together. I lost my job, my wife, custody of my kids. By the time my trial date arrived, she'd moved to Raleigh and blocked me on everything. That's different. It's identical, I interrupted. Kevin Hartley in Raleigh. Same story. Before him, there was someone in Charleston. She's a pattern, Clyde. And you fell for it because she made you feel like you were something more than a regional sales manager having a midlife crisis. The mediator, a woman named Janet who'd been silent until now, cleared her throat. Perhaps we should focus on the settlement terms. Absolutely. Simone slid a document across the table. Mrs. Caldwell retains full ownership of the marital home, which was always separate property. Mr. Caldwell will repay the $29,000 taken from the Children's College Fund, with interest. Full physical custody to Mrs. Caldwell, with supervised visitation pending psychological evaluation. Child support calculated at North Carolina state guidelines. And given the adultery and financial misconduct, 0 alimony. Marcus scanned the document, his face growing more grim with each line. This is aggressive. This is justice, Simone corrected. Your client can sign now, or we can go to court and add legal fees to his debt load. Your call. Clyde looked at Marcus desperately. We can fight this. With what grounds? Marcus asked quietly. Clyde, the house is hers. The missing money is documented. The affair is provable. If we go to court, you'll lose worse than this. At least this way you avoid public testimony about—" He glanced at me. "About Ramona." Speaking of Ramona. I pulled out my phone and showed Clyde a screenshot. She updated her Facebook relationship status this morning. Single. Checked into the Charlotte airport at 6 a.m. Tagged New Beginnings. Clyde grabbed for my phone. I pulled it back. "She's gone," I said softly. "Probably already has her next target lined up. Some manager at a company in Atlanta or Nashville. Someone else who thinks he's special." The devastation on his face was almost worth 17 years of invisible labor. Almost. "She told me she loved me," he whispered. "She told Marcus that too. And Kevin. And whoever came before them." I put my phone away. "The difference is, I actually did love you. For 17 years. And you never noticed." The mediation lasted another hour, but the fight had gone out of Clyde. He signed everything. The house, the custody, the child support, the repayment plan for the college fund that would take him 3 years to clear. When it was done, Marcus gathered his papers and paused at the door. "Mrs. Caldwell? Thank you. For the evidence on Ramona. I'm going to make sure it gets shared with the appropriate people. Maybe the next guy will Google her first." "Maybe," I said, though we both knew they wouldn't. The real victory came 2 weeks later. Clyde's company, Translogistics Regional, called him in for a meeting with HR. Turns out that embezzling from personal accounts was bad enough, but Ramona had also been doing creative accounting with office petty cash. Nothing huge. A few hundred here, a few hundred there. But when they investigated her computer, they found she'd been collecting information on other managers. Photos, financial details, personal emails. She'd been building a catalog of potential targets. Clyde got fired. Not for the affair, though corporate frowned on that, but for failing to report financial irregularities he should have noticed. His severance package was minimal. His reputation in Asheville's business community was obliterated. Patricia called me crying. "How could we not have seen this?" "Because you were too busy pretending your son was perfect," I said, not unkindly. But Harold testified honestly about the college fund. That took courage. "Thank you." She was quiet for a moment. "Will you let us see Lila and Oscar? They're your grandchildren, not his victims." I paused. "But Patricia?" "The pearl clutching has to stop. No more comments about my career, my cooking, my anything. Clear?" Crystal. October arrived with its parade of leaf peepers and pumpkin spice everything. I was in my kitchen in my house, making dinner when Lila came downstairs. "Mom, Dad wants to FaceTime." I wiped my hands on a towel. Put him on speaker. Clyde's face appeared on the screen. He was in what looked like a cheap apartment, bare walls behind him. "Girls," he said, voice rough. I wanted to say, "I'm sorry." For everything. Oscar appeared next to his sister. "Are you coming to my game Saturday?" The custody arrangement says supervised visits. "It's a soccer game, Dad. Public place. Mom will be there." Oscar's voice was careful. Testing. Clyde looked at me through the screen. "Linnea? You can come," I said. "You can watch your son play soccer. But Clyde? You're sitting on the opposite bleachers. You don't approach me. You don't approach the kids without asking first. You're there as a spectator. Understood?" "Understood." After he hung up, Lila looked at me. "You didn't have to do that. I didn't do it for him. I did it for you two." I went back to chopping vegetables. "He's still your father. He's just not my husband anymore. There's a difference." "Mom?" Oscar said quietly. "Are you happy?" I looked around my kitchen, at the counters I'd installed, the cabinets I'd refinished, the home I'd built with my own hands and my own money. "Yeah, buddy, I really am. And the crazy thing? I meant it. 6 months later, I was planting hydrangeas in the front garden, my grandmother's favorite, the ones she'd had lining the walkway before age and arthritis made gardening impossible. I'd been meaning to replace them for years, but there was always something more urgent. The roof, the plumbing, the endless list of home repairs that Clyde thought happened by magic. Now, on a mild April morning with the Smokies visible in the distance, I finally had time. "Mom, there's someone at the door!" Oscar yelled from inside. I wiped dirt from my hands and found Simone on my porch, holding a bottle of wine and grinning. "Thought you'd want to celebrate in person," she said, waving an envelope. "Final divorce decree. Signed, sealed, legally delivered. You are officially free." I took the envelope, feeling its weight. 17 years reduced to legal documents and a judge's signature. "How do you feel?" Simone asked. "Like I can finally breathe." We sat on the porch swing, the one I'd restored last summer, another project Clyde had called unnecessary, and watched the neighborhood come alive. Mrs. Patterson walking her absurd number of dogs, the Morrison kids riding bikes. Normal, beautiful, boring suburban life. "Heard Clyde's working at a call center in West Asheville," Simone said casually. "Customer service, night shift. Good for him. Builds character." I poured us both wine. "Patricia told me he's dating again. Someone age-appropriate this time. Divorced accountant with 2 kids. Think it'll last? Not my circus, not my monkeys." I took a sip. "Though I give it 6 months before he tries to move into her place and forgets whose name is on the deed." Simone laughed. "Some people never learn. Some people never had to." My business had exploded in ways I never expected. Turns out, being the woman who outsmarted her cheating husband and came out on top was excellent marketing in certain circles. I had 3 new corporate clients, a consulting contract with a major Asheville hotel, and enough projects lined up to hire an assistant. Lila got accepted to UNC Chapel Hill early admission, full academic scholarship. The college fund that Clyde had borrowed from, fully repaid, as mandated by the court. She'd be the first Caldwell woman to graduate debt-free. Oscar became captain of his middle school soccer team, and the high school varsity coach was already scouting him for when he aged up. The kid had his father's athletic genes. Unfortunately, that's about all he got from Clyde that was worth keeping. Clyde came to exactly 2 games before his night shift schedule made it too difficult. Oscar stopped asking when he'd show up. Patricia and Harold sold their country club membership and downsized to a smaller house near the Folk Art Center. Harold told me privately that watching their son's life implode had been a necessary wake-up call about the values they'd instilled. We had Sunday dinners now. Not often, but enough. They were trying. That counted for something. I ran into Marcus Webb at the coffee shop downtown one morning. He was with his kids, teenagers now, visiting from their mom's place in Charlotte. "Linnea." He shook my hand warmly. "How's freedom treating you?" "Like a spa vacation that never ends." "You?" "I'm good. Great, actually." He gestured to his kids. "Got partial custody back. Started my own practice. Even went on a few dates." He lowered his voice. "Ramona's in Nashville now, engaged to some hotel executive. I sent him the files anonymously. Did he listen?" He called off the engagement. Progress. We chatted for a few minutes about nothing important. 2 people who'd survived the same hurricane and made it to shore. Before he left, he turned back. "You saved my client from making my mistakes." That took guts. "I didn't do it for him," I said honestly. "I did it so my kids wouldn't lose their college fund to someone else's con game." Still, thank you. The house looked exactly how I'd always imagined it. Fresh paint on the porch, new shutters, the hydrangeas blooming in shades of blue and purple. Every nail, every brushstroke, every dollar invested was mine. Clyde drove by once, last month, slowed down in front of the house like he was remembering something, then kept driving. Good. Some doors need to stay closed. People ask me if I'm angry, if I'm bitter, if 17 years feels like wasted time. Here's the truth. I'm not angry. Anger requires caring, and I used up my lifetime supply of caring about Clyde Caldwell's feelings somewhere around the second Victoria's Secret charge. Bitter? No. Butter, maybe. Smooth, useful, makes everything better. As for wasted time, I got 2 incredible kids, a paid-off Victorian house in the best neighborhood in Asheville, and a front-row seat to Karma doing her absolute finest work. If that's waste, sign me up for more. I learned that being invisible isn't the same as being weak. Sometimes the quiet ones are quiet, because they're busy building empires while everyone else is busy talking. I learned that the house was never just a house. It was proof that I could create something beautiful, something lasting, something entirely my own. And I learned that the best revenge isn't burning someone's life down. It's building yours so beautifully they can't help but see what they lost. Last week, Lila asked me if I'd ever get married again. I was in the garden, naturally, weeding around the hydrangeas. Maybe, I said, if I find someone who notices I exist, someone who asks whose name is on the deed before assuming, someone who thinks partnership means both people show up. That's a pretty low bar, Mom. You'd be surprised how many people trip over it. She helped me plant the last hydrangea. Blue blooms, just like Grandma Rose loved. Mom, Lila said quietly, I'm proud of you. And that right there, was worth more than 17 years of being someone's invisible wife. I stood up, brushed the dirt from my knees, and looked at my house, my Victorian fortress, my kingdom. Clyde used to say we built it together. He was wrong. I built it. He just lived in it. And honestly, that's the story of our entire marriage. But now the story is mine. Every chapter, every word, every perfectly restored, painstakingly renovated, undeniably beautiful inch of it. Turns out you don't need a king to be a queen. You just need to remember you were wearing the crown all along.